Hi, Zoe. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, I just wanted to give a little bit of context that Zoe and I met at a networking event and we did a
Yes.
follow up call, didn't we? And we really hit it off because we've got a similar background in that we can both say that we spent 20 years getting up at ridiculous time in the morning working on live breakfast shows. Obviously, you were radio, me and TV. But yeah, we really had that in common, didn't we? So I'm really, really excited about this conversation.
Do you know, it makes your world very different, doesn't it? So getting up at 4:30 in the morning or 3:30 in the morning to go off to work, your whole day shifts. And what I always found doing breakfast shows was I would eat an extra meal a day because I got up and thought, right, breakfast time. And then you'd do the show and then come off air and it would be breakfast time.
Yeah,
Get home, right? That's lunchtime. Better have some dinner and then go to bed.
I know, I know. And I don't know about you, but I am forever an early bird now. No changing
Oh,
me.
absolutely. And my daughter is now 13 and still will not wake up anywhere past 6 o'clock in the morning because she's just so programmed to do that early rise.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Now, Zoe, I start every podcast by asking my guests, can you share the moment when you realized that your voice truly mattered?
So I'm not really sure that it does. You know, I sort of describe what I do as sort of talking nonsense, but my voice matters most when I am talking to other people about their stories.
Yeah.
So it's my voice and my ears because it's my voice amplifying others' stories, I suppose. So for years it was on the radio and talking nonsense and, larking about and whatever. But now it's telling people stories. So throughout my podcasting career, we've worked with lots of different businesses and industries and all sorts of different things to amplify those voices. And that's what really matters, is telling those stories and being able to give people a platform to talk about what they do and why they do it, because everybody then buys in, everybody then connects, everybody focuses in on their story, and it creates a bigger platform for those people.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question? Because I talked about listening and stuff, but the first time I realized that my voice might make a difference was at the end of senior school when I got my head of years award for loudest contribution to discussion. And I'm like, well, make a living out of it now, so that's all right.
There's so many things there that I want to pick up on.
Yeah.
So, so first of all, you said there about talking nonsense, and I actually really like that as almost kind of a way of describing what you're saying, because so many people put pressure on themselves to say the right thing. They have to say it in a
Yeah,
certain way, and actually, when you reframe it and change it to talking nonsense, it just puts a positive spin on it, doesn't it?
right. And actually, do you know what? Everybody loves it if, there's a bit of dead air or if there's a mistake made or whatever. Like we're all mates together and we'll all have a bit of a laugh about it. That's fine, right? But we're all your safety net. You know, we want you to win.
Mm. Now, you said there about you won the award. Was that loudest discussion?
Contribution to discussion.
Loudest. Okay. So you obviously had a loud voice, did you then, when you were at senior school? I'm imagining from that title. How did that put you in kind of good stead? How did you then get into the career that you obviously went into? Tell us a bit about that.
So I went and did performing arts at college, basically because I wanted to waste time before I became a police officer.
Mhm.
Um, and then I quite enjoyed my performing arts,
Mhm.
so I thought, oh, okay, this is pretty good. So off I went to Butlins for about 7 years to be a redcoat, little 18-year-old, and just absolutely adored it. At Butlins, you have a captive audience because these people have come there. They've come to be entertained. They're ready to laugh and have a wonderful time, you
Mhm.
know. So it's just a great apprenticeship for building connections, for learning stagecraft, learning how to connect with an audience. A lot of the stuff that I did was on stage. You know, I was one of the redcoats that was performing in shows all the time, you know, maybe 6 shows a day. But the rest of the time, if you were in your uniform, you had to say hello to people. When I worked at the hotel in Blackpool, used to have to get people up to do the ballroom dancing.
Mm.
And if you didn't know how to do the ballroom dancing, you found someone that knew and they would take you up and teach you it. And so you had to build a connection. You had to be able to converse with people and make a connection really quickly. I found that wearing a football badge for where I'm from would make a connection quickly. Oh,
Mhm.
you're such such. Oh, I remember da da da. So it's finding that common ground. Then I went off to be an actor in a touring theatre show. And I realized on that tour that I wasn't a very good actor, that I was that I was better off being myself. It was hard work, man. While I was working in London and I was doing lots of promotional stuff, I was working at the Ideal Home exhibition and they were selling cases of wine and they had a radio studio at the exhibition. And they said, would anybody like to do some interviews about wine? And I said, yeah, I'll do it. So off we went. And after I'd done a couple of these interviews, the producer of this radio studio said, you're quite good at this. I said, well, this is what I want to do. So he helped me put a demo together. And I think 6 weeks later, I was on a breakfast show in the heady heights, the mecca of entertainment that is Weston-super-Mare. Um, but it was my first foray into radio. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. We've got 9,000 listeners. That's amazing. And my next radio station had something like 700,000 listeners.
What a leap.
That's a phone number.
Uh,
So, yeah, I then worked on GWR in Bristol, which is also where I'm from. So it was home ground and it was amazing. I worked on Red Dragon in Cardiff, then Capital Radio in London, on the breakfast show with Johnny Vaughan, and then came down to the South Coast and worked on Power FM and then Heart.
You spoke really fondly there about your time in radio. How did you then move across into podcasting? What was that journey?
So after 20 years of getting up at silly o'clock and doing breakfast shows on the radio, Heart, which I'd been on at the time for 7 years, they decided to go national. Now, this had always been a thing in radio. We always knew that everything was going to go national. But it was, I suppose it was a bit heartbreaking because that was it. It was done.
Mm.
You know, I was not going to be on a breakfast show with, at the time, a 7-year-old daughter. There was no way that I could do a drive time show because that would be missing pickup from school and bedtime and everything else. So I set up a podcast because I thought if Heart's going national, we'll go local
Mm.
because that's maybe the missing piece now. So we set up Southampton's podcast, The So-So Show. Now, it's still going strong. This is sort of 7 years on and we love making it. And it's this positive beacon for Southampton. And we talk about all of the amazing businesses, all the amazing events and people. And we really shine a positive light on everything that goes on and talk about everything that's happening and how brilliant Southampton is. We have the second biggest park run in the country, sometimes in the world, here at Southampton. And that community and that buzz is sort of what we try and capture on the So-So Show. A couple of months into making it, we had a couple of businesses approach us and say, we want to make our own podcast. Can you help us? And I said, yes, of course. And the podcast lady was born and it does great stuff. You have to see me as your chauffeur.
Mm,
What are the stories? What are the bullet points that you want to cover? And I'll get you there.
mm,
But it just looks as if it's just a natural conversation. I know the answers and I know the stories that you're going to tell. So I can say, has there ever been a time when da da da
mm.
happened? And with the zoo, we love making Marwell Zoo's podcast. It's something completely different. And it's not just a podcast that you can listen to whenever. It's also becomes an audio guide when you're there
Oh,
in front of the
amazing.
animals.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you don't have to be there for the keeper talk. You've got it in your ears and they're telling you all about the snow leopards
Mm.
or the tiger or the giraffe. And um, that's fascinating to work on, you know. That's brilliant.
Your passion absolutely shines through. Like from the minute we started this conversation and you started talking about podcasts, you just light up. You can really tell. Because obviously, you know, when we both started in TV, radio for you, podcasts weren't even around.
No.
But it's such a brilliant platform. You spoke there about people creating their own. I've just been on my own journey and launching my own podcast. And it's a fantastic platform, isn't it, for
Yes.
using your voice to speak. You said about sharing people's stories. Is that what you truly love about it? Or what is there anything else?
I truly love being able to help people share their story and connect with their audience. You know, when the penny drops for them
Mm,
and they go, oh, yeah. So if I tell this story and I share my thoughts and my feelings, somebody that's on a dog walk listening to this taps into this and they connect with me and then they come to me for my services.
mhm.
I'm like, and that's it.
Voila.
It is, isn't it? Look, it's that whole people by people, and
Mm,
they do buy into it, and they buy into the story. We hear all this stuff about branding and whatever, and I'm like, okay, just talk to me like a normal person.
mhm,
We don't want to hear the company strapline. Nobody does that, you know. Nobody is listening to a podcast where they're towing the company line and going, right, definitely, I like these
mm,
people.
mm,
You know, there's a podcast that I made for an accountancy firm that was after ground workers. And when we made a podcast that absolutely spoke to them, it flew.
mm,
And it was, should I be a sole trader or a limited company?
mm.
And what they did was they listened to that and then they came for that accountant's services because they said, you speak to me, you speak my
Yeah,
language.
yeah.
Okay, I can talk to you. That's it, isn't it?
Mm. But
Um,
it's quite an intimate act, isn't it? Listening to someone's voice in your ear, and
yeah.
it kind of fast tracks that know, like, and trust factor, doesn't it?
Mhm. And I think it's so connected. You're talking straight into somebody's brain.
Mm,
And I know that you do this very, very well, Sarah, but there's only ever one listener.
mm,
You have to really hone that. You know, I've been told that for years and years and years. I think it's Terry Wogan said that as well, wasn't it? Like, there's only ever one listener. You
mm.
talk directly to them and you will have a conversation without them being there. There was a barrister that came to me and said, I don't really like networking. Can I make a podcast instead? I said, yes, of course. And she has been held up on, you know, the Law Society. They're like, if you're going to study law, you need to listen to this.
Wow.
Um, she's just very candid about it. And actually it's just amplifying that
Yeah.
personality without standing in front of somebody.
Mm,
You know, they can gauge you. They, you know, and they engage in it as well. If you're on a dog walk and you've got a podcast in your ear and it says, imagine you're sat in the pub in the corner in that old rickety chair and you've got a pint of Guinness in front of you. You're picturing it straight away. And there seems to be this big move, this big shift to video. And I say to people, look, use video. Absolutely. Like, use a full-length video on YouTube, use the clips on social media, but please, please, please don't forget that it's something like 95% of podcasts are still just audio. You have to remember that. That's really hard when, like me, in December, you are interviewing a guy called Max Fulham, who's a comedian, and he was in the pantomime down here, and he is a ventriloquist and has a monkey sat on his lap that's also talking to you. So you have to remember that audio thing because you don't want anybody to turn off.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it can sound, oh, hang on, I don't know what's going on.
That sounds like a whole other level, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it really is. And I have to say, oh, well, thank you, Gordon the monkey.
Brilliant, brilliant. So obviously listeners to this podcast might be perhaps taking their first steps into podcasting, whether that's being a guest or perhaps even creating their own podcast. Breaking that down then, what would you say would be your top tips for, using
Okay.
your voice in that way?
Let's do making a podcast first, and then we'll come back to guesting. So I think making a podcast, the first thing that you need to do is identify your audience. It's no good saying, it's everyone. It isn't. And once you've identified that audience, focus down on it. Just absolutely drill it down. Who are they? Where do they live? Who do they live with? Have they got a dog? Who are their mates? The one question I love about the audience or the target listener is, what do they do on a Sunday morning? Because it really tells you where they are and what they do. Oh, well, I think they take the kids to football, and then they, and you really build a picture of them. And then once you've identified your audience, you need to know who they are, why you want them to listen, and what you want them to do afterwards. So is it that you want them to buy your services? If it's that, then you need to be in your episodes gifting them something. So identify your audience, then cut the faff. That means once you're talking to your audience, if there's something in there that is not relevant, cut it. The conversation that happens in a lot of podcasts that we just don't need, which is, hello, how are you? I'm fine. How are you? I'm fine too. We've got that you're fine because you're there. That's it.
We didn't do that, did we? That's good.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't. And I was really conscious not to do that and then bring it up. Hang on. Somebody's at the door. I love these. I'll be 2 seconds.
No worries at all.
Right.
So a really funny thing happened when you were just talking then, because you were saying about your top tips when it came to creating a podcast. And obviously I've just been through my own journey of creating a podcast. And as you were talking, I had all this inner chatter and I was overthinking everything. And I was thinking, have I done that? Have I done that? Oh, unbelievable.
Yours is absolutely brilliant, Sarah. I've listened to it, and actually you've gifted me something. There's a solo episode that you did, and you talk about why we feel so vulnerable putting ourselves out there and sort of trying to be heard. And it's all about that judgment thing. And it goes back to sort of tribal times when if you spoke up and you were then not included in the tribe, you were an outcast and, you weren't involved. And it's a really, really instinctive thing, isn't it? Just to keep you safe okay, as long as I'm quiet, this will be fine. We'll just ride it out. Yeah, so thank you because you've gifted me that. And it's one of those things that I'll always remember.
Well, I'm on the right track. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely you are.
Brilliant.
But also you have to, this word is banded around all the time at the moment, authenticity. And that is worth so much. And the fact that you're checking it and you're going, okay, right, so there's 3 top tips, but actually, am I doing all of those? Means you're authentic. And the fact that you talk about those vulnerabilities and those times where you're questioning yourself, all of those things are very attractive because it connects with us because we do exactly the same.
Mm.
I'm coming on here today. I've done hundreds of these, but I'm so nervous doing it.
You
And
don't see
it
them.
might be a bit of excitement, but I I do get that adrenaline. My watch goes off and says, "You're stressed out. Sit down and breathe."
But again, it comes back to that intimate setting because actually it is me and you here on this call. There will be several people listening to this, as we've said, in that intimate way in your ear. You said there about authenticity, and I think long gone are the days, aren't they, where perhaps you're a spokesperson for an organization or you're running your own business and we feel like we have to put on this voice. We have
Yeah.
to speak in a certain way, say the right terminology, and be seen perhaps as something that we're not. So
Yeah.
authenticity, I think, is vital, isn't it, in this day and age? And stories really come into that as well, don't they?
I think authenticity is the key to everything. You can see on social media, it's the authentic people, it's the passionate people. I go running, and the people that are fast, yep, great. But the people that are authentically starting and talking about it hurting and the fact that it's raining and they've got to put their trainers on because they've put in for the marathon and they got in the ballot. It's those ones that we buy into and we sort of cheerlead for them, isn't it? The authenticity it's the good and the bad. I think as well that I've found vulnerability builds confidence.
Mm,
So sharing something that you found hard is not only the authentic, vulnerable piece, but you can gain a lot of confidence from that.
mm,
So if I put out somewhere that I am a completely lone parent and I haven't done it yet,
mm,
but I know that when I post that out, I will feel in the beginning, I feel sick putting that out there. But actually, it's a really authentic, vulnerable piece, and it's a big piece of my life. So when I share that and I speak up about that and how hard that is, I think it builds confidence in me from doing that.
yeah, I would completely agree. Actually, even just sharing my story through my podcast has really
Yeah.
helped my confidence grow as well. I saw that throughout my career, just people sharing their stories. You almost go on your own journey, don't you, of kind of self-acceptance and
Yeah.
confidence when you share lows as well as the highs. I think authenticity, I would say, is the number one thing that when you're doing perhaps podcast guesting, you need to bring into the conversation. What other qualities do you think make a good podcast guest?
Okay. So guesting, I think, is about knowing your story
Mm,
so that you can tell it authentically. So going on to a podcast, what are you going to talk about? What story do they want? I have lots of people come on to different podcasts that I make and they'll say, "Can you send me the questions? Because I don't
mm,
know." Let's say it's the Southampton Marathon. So I go to the organizer and I'll say, "Okay, well, I just want you to talk about that event. It's fine. You know all the answers.
mm.
It's fine. It's just that you're going, it's going to be recorded. There's something about it being recorded and forevermore being there that makes people go, oh, I think it's about knowing what you're going to be asked and that they just want to chat to you about it. Things like if I go and speak to a restaurant in Southampton, I'll ask them, but what's your favourite on the menu? And that's just a nice little chatty thing because you can get stuck in the sales speak over here, but that doesn't mean that you're selling it.
Mm.
Actually, it's the authentic. Okay, what's the most popular on the menu, and how many of those do you have to make on a Saturday morning or whatever it is? It's knowing what you want to say and the story that you want to tell.
Yeah, it's having that clarity, isn't it? That
Yeah.
clarity and it's all in the preparation.
So check in with your podcast host. What do you want from me?
Mm.
What are you expecting of me? Okay, well, I just want to talk to you about the new ride at Paulton's Park. Okay, well, we can do that. That's all right. I've got all of the stats, but actually, let's just chat about it. Is it going to make me scream? Yes, it is. Right. Done.
Well, you've got a fun job, haven't you?
I know. It opens in 2 weeks, and I'm like, oh gosh, this goes upside down. Are you kidding me?
Zoe, so what's one myth you would love to dispel about what you do?
That you can buy a microphone, talk into it, and that makes a great podcast.
Go on, elaborate on that.
So there has to be a lot of thought goes into it. People think that, yes, talking into a microphone, yay, we got a podcast. And lots of people think that their conversations are very entertaining, and they probably are down the pub, but you're not talking to your mates. You have to remember who you're talking to. Podcasts are split up into thirds, and it should be equal thirds. So you need to work hard at every third of it. The first third is preparation and planning. That's where you talk about your audience, your roadmap for the series, your roadmap for the episode, where you curate your content. Then there's the middle piece, which is the making of. And the making of is not just putting down the microphone and having a chat with somebody and all of that stuff. It's all of the planning and the prep that comes into this, and knowing exactly where you're going with the conversation. Then it's the editing. Everybody goes, oh, well, yeah, well, just get somebody to edit it. Yeah, okay. But if you haven't got the raw materials there in the first place, you can't come up with a good podcast. So you've got the editing and the producing. And then the final piece, and this is, again, a lot of people miss this piece. It's the marketing of, the promotion of, it's the putting it out there on the platforms. Nobody knows you're there until you're shouting about it. And so things to help that are, your clips on social media, your social media talking to that audience, bringing them in and saying, actually, I can give you more. There's also, a lot of people will miss this, the transcription of your podcast can be used for SEO and GEO. And that can become a blog that sits on your website that gifts those people that want to read it rather than listen to it. It gifts them that same information. And the evergreen podcasts. So this happens all the time. But people put their podcast out and then they forget about that one and they're on to the next one. Whereas actually, you could be putting these out every 3 months, the same episode. Nobody's going to say, well, I've already listened to that one. Why have you put that one out again? Out there again. What are people looking for? When do your audience need that information? I talked about a barrister's podcast where the Law Society said, you need to listen to this if you're going to study law. We'll put that one out in August, put it out again in September, so that people know where they can find these things. It's all about knowing your audience and when they want to consume this information. I've always wanted to do, it sounds awful, but like a death podcast, because it's information you don't need until you need it.
Yeah.
Like nobody's like, okay, well, I need to know what I need to do when the time comes. As soon as you're in that situation and you are doing the admin for somebody that's passed away, you need that information straight away. And I always think, right, that would be an amazing podcast to make, because you're talking to somebody when you're giving them information, you're giving them the to-do list that they probably don't know that they need at that time, and they just need it just set out for them. This is what you need to do. Then you ring them, then you get in touch with them, and this is how you do it. I'm all up for that. Just that, helping people along, gifting people the right information at the right time.
I really love the way that you phrase that about gifting people information. I think that's really, really great. I'm gonna remember that one. Zoe, we've talked about so much in this episode. Where can people find you?
So my website, The Podcast Lady, you can follow me on there. I've got a new podcast coming out about that midlife piece.
Mm.
So, I'm a big advocate at the moment for I'm 51 and I've never felt better. And I'm not trying to be 25 or act like I am anymore. I've sort of stepped into this midlife era and I feel more confident and less worried about what people think and happier than I've ever been. So that podcast will be out very, very soon. So watch out for it.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I'm definitely looking out for that one. Now, to wrap up each episode, I ask my guests to fill in the blank. So, if you could tell listeners to speak with and then perhaps add a phrase or a word, just something that gives them a little bit of inspiration as they go about their day, what would that be?
Okay. Uh, Speak with authority or authenticity means you know what you want to say. And people can't ignore you if you're confident. And authenticity is the thing that makes people like you. It's the thing that makes people connect with you. It's the thing that makes people trust you and gives you that likability. It's the thing that people say, "Oh, you're like me. Brilliant.
Mm.
Okay, we'll get on then."
Thank you so much, Zoe. Thank you. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, same. Love it. And look, it couldn't be any more authentic, could it? You know, I've got the washing machine going. You've got the dog barking. There's the authenticity.
Don't forget you had to answer the door.
Oh, yes.
It was all in there. Oh, and tech issues as well. But, we're here and we're enjoying it, aren't we?
Yeah, love it. But why not? You know, the authenticity piece on a Zoom call is always your mic's not on.
Yeah. Yeah. We got that one at least. That's good. Right. Take care. And thank you so much.
Thank you.